Intra-party friction among Republicans is on full display once again, as lawmakers are left in limbo on how to avert a government shutdown. But the party was united today in passing their final China-related bill, with most Democrats opposing it. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
Wrapping up their China week, House lawmakers passed a bill meant to prevent tax dollars from propping up the Chinese regime's EV battery companies.
The American people do not want CCP-affiliated companies setting up shop in their towns and neighborhoods. The American people do not want to be held hostage to the whims of the Chinese Communist Party for our supply of critical minerals. Under the current regulations brought about by the Inflation Reduction Act, these nightmares have become our reality.
7 Democrats sided with Republicans, but the majority of Democrats opposed it, arguing it would hurt American innovation and businesses.
Ironically, this bill would make it harder for us to compete with China. These new unclear restrictions under this bill would make it completely unworkable and lead the auto industry and battery manufacturers to pull back their U.S. investments.
Republicans, however, claim that Biden's tax credits for EVs benefit China, since the country supplies the materials for EV batteries. While Republicans showed unity on this bill, cracks are showing on another. The week ended on a sour note for House Republican leadership after they were forced to yank a bill from the floor lacking their own party's support.
People have concerns about all sorts of things. That's how the process works, and sometimes it takes a little more time.
Speaker Johnson started out the week with high hopes of passing a bill to fund the government into March of next year, saddled with a measure to require proof of citizenship to vote. The bill doomed from the start in the Democrat-controlled Senate.
This proposal isn't even serious, it's dangerous.
Failing to secure that full party support, House Speaker Mike Johnson is now in for a weekend of conducting touchy budget talks. Adding to the mix, former President Trump has weighed in, saying that if Republicans can't secure that voting measure, they should, in his words, in no way, shape, or form pass a short-term government funding bill. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
And a bipartisan group of lawmakers unveiling new legislation that would strengthen U.S. sanctions on the Venezuelan regime. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more.
The Valor Act, a bipartisan bill presented by Republican Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, would block U.S. foreign assistance to any country providing assistance except humanitarian aid to the Venezuelan regime. In a statement, Congresswoman Salazar made it clear that a message needs to be sent loud and clear that the United States will be doing no more business with the Maduro dictatorship.
Yeah, but that's something that we need to do, and the Biden administration needs to do. Instead of rewarding the Maduro regime, we need to start punishing the Maduro regime. And yes, companies that are doing business with the regime, putting money in the pockets of these crooks, need to be sanctioned.
Right, just wanting to stand with the Venezuelan community against what's going on in Venezuela with the government. And so I'm trying to do that on a bipartisan basis.
Congressman Corey Mills argued that it is in the national security interest of the United States to find a solution to the Venezuelan crisis.
Our greatest threat isn't sitting in Ukraine 9,000 miles away. It's in our own hemisphere. And we're sitting here ignoring it. And we need to have a seat at the table. So even if you don't agree with what the Chavists are doing or you don't believe what's happening in Venezuela, you still at least need a seat at the table to understand what's happening so that we can actually play a role there. Because if not, the Russia, China, Iran, North Korea geopolitical alignment is going to grow stronger and stronger in our own hemisphere. And then we're not going to have anything north and south of us to be able to rely upon.
The State Department announced 16 new sanctions against the Maduro regime. The Venezuelan regime claimed victory in the July 27 presidential elections, and the State Department has accused the regime of tampering with the results, falsely claiming victory and widespread repression to maintain power. Opposition presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez is currently in exile in Spain. The Spanish government has recognized Gonzalez as the president-elect of Venezuela. It is important to note that Representatives Mills, Salazar, Jimenez, and Moskowitz are all congressmen from the state of Florida, where approximately 380,000 Venezuelans live. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
What did Pennsylvania voters think of Tuesday night's debate? In which way do they see their state swinging in this election? I sat down with a group yesterday to discuss these questions in depth. So we're here with a group of registered voters, all from the state of Pennsylvania. It's really an honor to have you all joining us for this special focus group a day after the presidential debate. Thank you all so much for sitting down with us. Let's get this started with first asking everybody if they have a party affiliation. How many of you here are registered Republicans? 2 registered Republicans. How many of you are registered Democrats? Registered independents? 2. Okay. So last night, watching the debate, how many of you watched the debate between Harris and Trump? How many of you are decided on Trump? How many for Harris? Okay. Did anything that Harris did last night reinforce your support for her?
Yes, I think she came out very professional. I think when she came out, she shook his hand, called him former president, and I think he looked at all mean, and his perception that he was looking mean and stuff. So I think she came out professional, and he came out being like a little bully to me.
He came across as a bully to you. Now, for people that supported Trump, Don, what did you think of former President Trump's performance last night?
I thought it was abysmal. He underperformed, and I would agree with Allison. He came across as the mean Trump instead of the statesman Trump.
But his performance last night didn't change your view of him in terms of how you will vote in November?
Absolutely not, because deeds matter and substance matters.
I thought he got knocked off his game very early. I don't think he had the sufficient focus to bring his message to the table. He allowed his angry side to get the better of him. Quite frankly, and we've all seen Trump for the last 9 years. I think he might have been spending more of his mental and psychological energy trying to filter himself rather than really doing what everybody said he needed to do, which was to focus on the issues, focus on the substance, and get that out there.
She had him on his heels, and I can't even articulate as to what specifically it was that was said that would have caused it, but it seemed to me that he was placed on defense quickly and could not recover from it.
So with that said, I want to talk about policy issues. Pennsylvania, obviously a key battleground state. All eyes on Pennsylvania for the next 50 some odd days. So this is a question for everybody. By a show of hands, do you think that we are better off now than we were 4 years ago when President Biden and Kamala Harris took office?
I think we better off.
I'm going to point to the pre-COVID economy that Trump built, from the day that he took office until the governors around the country started shutting down state economies. That economy can't hold a candle. This economy cannot hold a candle to that economy. Inflation, gross domestic product, GDP growth, new housing starts, new business starts, the market, you name it. The economy pre-COVID was firing on all 8 cylinders. Right now it's not.
I couldn't in that moment think of one singular way in which I could articulate possibly as an objectively reasonable person that my life has improved at all under this administration. In fact, everything I could think of is worse.
I live in a household where we track virtually every expense and every dollar except for between $400 and $600 in cash in the course of a year. I can tell you my household expenses as a retired person on a fixed income are 31.6% higher last year in 2023 than they were in 2020. I can also tell you that my Social Security didn't go up by that amount. My Medicare premiums went up by far more than, as a percentage, than my Social Security did.
So just quickly, through your lens, if the election were tomorrow, and based on what you feel objectively, which way is Pennsylvania going to land?
I expect there will be a slight shift in the polling data that will come out on Sunday to Monday. I think that'll settle out. But if you look at each of the previous 2 election cycles, the indicators would suggest that Donald J. Trump is going to eke out a win.
Just looking at the last two presidential election cycles, Pennsylvania has been won. It has not been won by more than 2% of them. I think it was 1.7% was in the last few election cycles. So it's going to be a very narrow race.
In your universe, in your social circles, are there people that were either Republican or Democrat before this election and are changing their vote?
What we've been seeing in Bucks County is, and I don't know if this is reflected statewide, you may have seen better data than I have, is that pretty much on a weekly basis, we're seeing anywhere from, let's say, 70 to 80 people changing their registration from Democrat to Republican, and then the independents are just behind them, maybe 50 or 60 or so are changing from independent to Republican. So we are seeing, and we've been seeing this trend now, I would say for the last 4 years, where the party flips, because people flip in both directions, but the party flips from Democrat and from independent to Republican are outweighing those going in the opposite direction.
Taylor Swift last night after the debate endorsing Kamala Harris. How many people think that endorsement will have an impact? I believe she has over 280 million followers on X and different social media. Very loyal following. Show of hands? No?
I think she's going to have a little impact. I think that she's out there in the media and she's influenced. She's got her followers, and they follow just like they follow Trump. They probably going to follow her. Some of them, not all of them.
Now, Allison, I want to ask you, in your microcosm, you're right here from the city of Philadelphia. Tell us what you're hearing from your community. What are the biggest issues that matter to folks, and which way, if you were to take a guess, just based on what you're feeling, if the election were to be tomorrow, how would the state of Pennsylvania go? To whose favor?
I think it's Kamala. I think it will go in her favor. I know in my community, a lot of people, some people like Trump, some people like Kamala, and some people just don't want to vote at all.
Now, why don't they want to vote?
So they don't like either candidate.
And so is there anything that he could do to change your mind? Because like you said, you are an independent.
Well,
Nothing you could foresee?
No. If he keep on going on the way that he's speaking, just calling people names, it just turns me off. So I don't think he's a leader. He doesn't even sound professional.
Jacob, you talk to us about, obviously a Pennsylvania voter. What are you sensing in your community?
I couldn't tell you or give you a number of how many independents that are voting Republican with enthusiasm and how many Democrats that have said almost all something to the effect of, I cannot afford 4 more years of this. I'm voting for Trump.
Well, I just want to thank everybody. Really fascinating insight into the voters in this very important and critical battleground state. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.